or the conditions that people said you're useless or worthless, or you'll never amount to anything. That's why I wanted you to see that film, Gifted Hands. I'm going to mention it on the DVD. Gifted, it's such a powerful film because this person started out with all the wrong things to wind up being a pediatric neurosurgeon, the head of the department in Johns Hopkins Hospital. He had a single mother who could not read, 2 children. He was getting D's and F's in school. And he reached there. Powerful film. Excellent. So don't worry about tomorrow. Do what you can with every moment of your life, and there will be no problem for tomorrow. God will give you what you need tomorrow because tomorrow's not here yet. And guess what? If He gave you what you needed for all of your tomorrows, you couldn't carry it. Tell me if you have to store up all the food for the year in your house, it would go to waste. You don't shop that way. And you need things a day at a time. No more, no less. So you see, our whole frame of reference changes. The military understands this. And it breaks that in men to be concerned about anything. They don't worry about their skivvies, they don't worry about their food, they don't worry about their ammunition, they don't worry about nothing. They got to worry about keeping their gun clean, ready for use, but they don't got to worry about when they run out of bullets. Somebody's got to supply them some more. And if this breaks out, there, you got to give me another one. I got my shoes, you got to give me some more. There is a supply line that they are uninvolved with. And this is what God is trying to get us to understand. There's a supply line you don't have to worry about. God has our needs known before you know it. I'll give you another illustration. I've been worried about our need for broadband. As many of you know, with the computer world, at least in this country, it's becoming more and more impossible to carry on certain things. Business-wise, without access to the internet. Everything is becoming tied to that tool. We, for 2 years, haven't had any access to that, and I have to take my computers elsewhere to get into that, to update it and so on. And it's becoming more and more problematic. So I'm saying, Lord, we've got to do something. And I'm beginning to do what? Worry. And just when I reached my panic mode, I'm talking to the librarian and saying, I can't get this, and then I find out that there is a provider for my area, and you know, there's only 1 or 2 people that cover that area, and this was the one, and I find out, I get the numbers from them. I said, okay, and I found out that the library had used this source, so hello, if the library had used it, it's okay. So I'm saying, all right, I'm going to see, I'm going to investigate, and when I go home, one of my nieces calls and said, Uncle Joe, you just destroy everything. Oh. I said, what do you mean? Well, I didn't do anything. I didn't even talk to you. She said, I was going to get you a Christmas present. Oh. I was going to get the internet for you. And I'd already searched it out. She knew the company. She had already priced it out. And as of December, I was going to get a Christmas gift. But I was ahead of time. What was I doing? Worrying. So each day has enough trouble of its own. Tomorrow's not a... I don't have to go any further. Chapter 7. We're moving into chapter 7. How are we doing for time? I got 14 minutes. Okay. I've done an actual retreat just on this one 3-day retreat on this whole aspect of do not judge so that you will not be judged. For in the way you judge, you will be judged. And by your standard of measure, it will be measured to you. Why do you look at the speck? Now notice the terminology. Why do you look at the speck? How big is a speck? Small. Very, very small. Why do you look at the speck that's in your brother's eye, but you do not notice the what?
The log.
In other words, follow this. This is so profound because it deals with judging. We judge what we don't like. One of my pet peeves is wasting time. I'm conscious of time. And, you know, life slips through your fingers and it's gone. You know, here I am in my 60s, 20 years, I know how short 20 years is. I'll be 80. And I know what 80-year-old guys look like and can do. And I'm going to be one of them, you know, very shortly. So I'm conscious of time, and wasting time is one of my pet peeves. But do I waste people's time? They ask me for a question, and I give them a book. And all they wanted was one simple answer to get them on the road. Have I done the same thing? Do I have a log in my eye when I'm looking at a speck in someone else's? It's basically the same thing that you may have in yourself unknowingly that you dislike or want to fix in somebody else. I call them blind spots. But you do not notice the log that's in your own eye. And blind spots, I'll give you this much of this. The eye, and I miss your daughter, the eye has a place in it where all the nerves go in to the brain and follows through. And at that location, there is no ability for light to have any reflection back, and you don't see anything in that area. That's a blind spot. It's impossible. We all have them. But God has them off center in the eyes, so that one eye fills the other and this eye fills that one, and then the mind fills it whether you got two eyes or not. The mind is operating on such a way that it is filling these blind spots even though you don't realize you can't see that particular place. Isn't that great?
Amazing.
But the blind spots, taking it to this, you can't see the log. But your brother can see the speck. Because the log and the speck, from perspectives, are larger or smaller. Can you follow that? So here, we need someone else. Because the issue is, once you get the log out of your eye, then you are capable to successfully remove the speck from your brother's eye. So the issue is, there is a need for someone to help you. And that's the hard part about blind spots. You cannot find them on your own. Because you can't see them. It's a brother or a sister or a wife or a child. You're angry. No, I'm not angry. What do you mean I'm angry? I haven't been angry. You know, I've never been an angry person. And everybody keeps telling you you're an angry person. I don't have a problem there. And someone keeps telling you these things. That's why it's important. And as we go through the scriptures, we come to realize, how do we correct situations? You go to them personally. Once that is accomplished, then the person begins to see from different individuals, whoa, that person came to me. And God may send 6 in a day if you got on the list. But if 6 people all go to somebody else, the person never knows they got a problem. So yeah, we need each other. We cannot do this alone. I thank God for my wife because she is sensitive to things that I cannot see. I have to trust you to see what's behind me. You have to trust me to see what's behind you. God has made us that way, where there's a need. And we're not, and I look at the illustration, of course, of being crucified, as we talk about dying in Jesus. If you wanted to do your best for the Lord and crucify yourself, the best you can do is get both feet down in one hand. True? You can nail down both feet and one hand. If I got to illustrate it any further than this, I don't know. Hold it, boom, boom, boom. That's as much as you can do. Who's going to finish the crucifixion? Another brother or sister? You can't finish the job. Someone will be involved with your dying process before the Lord. That's why we have to learn to listen carefully to when people speak to us. We'll get to that too. It says, be careful what you hear, what you listen to. We're on break. And let's see if we can move on here. And now we're looking at something that is very interesting, because the Lord now, bringing us past that, He brings us to the place of treating what is of value. Not to the world, but to Him. What is holy is not to be treated as common.
Repeat it again.
It's right there on the board. What is holy is not to be treated as common. We are dealing with, as disciples, a new radical shift in our whole thinking, our whole understanding, our lives have been drastically flipped. And what we're dealing with is something holy. It belongs to God. And as a result, He now gives us these statements. Do not, and here's one of those statements that I just learned, which is more emphatic than you're touching that, stop touching it. You're doing it. This is a future activity that will come about in the future, and He is telling you, don't you even ever go there in your future. You haven't begun it. It hasn't been a part of your life yet. But don't ever go there. This is why it talks about vain repetitions. Don't ever, ever go into my presence, says God, with a bunch of babble of repetitive phrases that you think are right before me. That's the intensity of it. Don't ever give what is holy to those that have no regard for it. We're so busy at times trying to get God's truths into somebody who doesn't want it. Isn't that true?
Maybe they do, but they're kind of hiding behind.
We can't say the maybe. If they reject it, what can you do? You have no ability to reach that heart. Let's face it. You don't have the words, the wisdom, nor the ability to understand how that person got to that hardened state. All you know is they are defiant to the truths and the things of which are the truths of God that you're bringing before them, and they reject it. I made this as part of my personal walk in this. I will talk to anybody about the things of God if they're willing to listen. I don't want to know anything about their background, but if I give them a little tidbit, and I was in the hospital the other day visiting a niece, and there was another patient, and we got to talking, and about other things, but before we left, I mentioned God in a couple of things in the context, just to see how she would respond. She quickly moved away. So that meant to me what? Leave her alone. You know what you become? You become the pushy salesman that we all hate. Trying to back someone into the corner of accepting what you're offering, and they don't want it. That's not the way God reaches people. Remember, we've already looked at it. This is what it is. And everybody said, I'm out of here. And what did he do? Turn to the ones that were left. Didn't turn around. What is precious belongs to those people who will appreciate it. I thank God for people who ask me things. Because I can't give everything in a class. And I'm privileged to be able to talk to somebody when they want it. But how can I give them something that they don't want? He puts it in the most emphatic illustration to let you know how he perceives this. Take the gems, pearls. They didn't have diamonds back then. Okay? Pearls were very precious. So he's dealing in the context of what their comprehension is. We today, oh, what's a pearl? We make those. Synthetic pearls. They're just as nice as the other ones. But a pearl, which is an irritation in that animal, takes years to create, and it is profound, that it's so profound that the gates of heaven will be solid pearls. So God values the pearl differently than we do. So now he gives that illustration. You got it, right? Okay, you know the text. So here now, he says, here's something precious. Now, you've got to realize the people he's talking to are of what group? They are all, who gets the star today?
Jews.
Hey, he gets the star. He did not send them to the Gentiles. So these are all Jews. Make sure you get your star. Because they understood that the pig was what? Clean. Now they got it. This was an animal they would not even want to touch. That was the illustration that we get to later with the lost son reaching a condition. Remember, he's still talking to Jews. He's talking to somebody who would be upset to be brought to want to eat what pigs eat. Does the analogy take on a different impact? And now you get it. And he says, if you, what? Throw your pearls. And he said, don't you ever think of throwing my precious things before that which is unholy and unclean. You have to discern what to say, when to say it, and know that God is prompting you. Do you have the permission to speak? We talk more than we should. We should be listening more than we talk. Because if we're listening to God before we talk, we'll talk and see the effect of what we say, because God is behind the words that come out of our mouth. What does it say in James? Be slow and quick to. You got 2 ears in one mouth, so twice as much. That's another illustration. But here, you begin to get a more impact in this. That what will happen? He tells you what happens in this condition. And remember, he's not just giving you swine. He's giving you a whole illustration of what you will be presenting to a world of individuals. And what will happen? They will what? Trample them under their feet. And what will they do next? Turn and do what?
Tear you to pieces.
Tear you to pieces. How many of you have been torn up because you've tried to talk to somebody and didn't know this was not the person to talk to? And they tore you up and you went home bleeding. And wondering, oh God, what did I do wrong? You shouldn't have opened your mouth. You should have left that person alone. I remember one illustration of this. This brother is a graduate of Teen Challenge. He's had tremendous testimony. And he was in the city again with his family. And they're all Christians now. And of course he still witnesses to people. And he sees a homeless kind of individual and talking to them. And immediately he recognized this person is not wrapped. It's time to back up, because this person is a loose wire, and the next thing you know, you got a garbage can on you. Okay? He was a street guy. All right? He slept in the gutters. He knows the right things about these people. If they're not wrapped too tight, you don't bother those folks.
Right.
Jesus knows how to get the demons out of them and get them in their right mind. But we may not have that wisdom. Okay? But here, he is backed up, and now his wife and children want to come in for the witness. He says, honey, let's leave. Honey, let's leave. And she says, oh no, let me talk to her. And the woman, you get it?
Yeah.
Remember, we don't fight against flesh and blood.
That's right. That's right.
And we're dealing with spiritual issues that we need sensitivity from God. If God tells you to go to that person, he's ready to heal that person because they're ready for that too. There's something of an interplay of the person ready to receive. And some people haven't gotten far enough down, like they're not in the pigsty yet, to come to their senses. So we don't put ourselves in that kind of situation, because you're going to wind up being hurt. When you pray, know that your Father knows how to give good gifts. All we have to do is simply do what? Ask, seek and knock. Okay, now here is something that has been mistaught, because some people didn't look at the original. The original here is an imperative, and now some of you are getting this. It's a command, and it's in its present, like breathing. So it's a continuous, in the present, command. So it's ask and never stop asking. Jesus prays the same prayer 3 times. And I've heard some individuals may say, oh, you have no faith if you pray more than once over an issue. Jesus obviously didn't have any faith, because he prayed the same prayer 3 times in the Garden of Gethsemane. So that theology obviously has a warp somewhere in it, right? And then when you look at this text, you see It's to keep asking. It's not that God is not concerned about something. But remember what we're asking for.